Picture this. You are at the absolute end of a long, incredibly demanding day.
No, we've all been there.
Right. Maybe it was a massive presentation at work or a friend's wedding or just one of those days where you had to be, fully on from the moment you left the house.
Yeah, the marathon days.
Exactly. And you are wearing high heels. You know that exact moment, usually around late afternoon or early evening, where your feet just start, well, pleading for relief.
Pleading is a good word for it.
The balls of your feet feel like they're quite literally radiating heat. And suddenly, every single step you take becomes this tense negotiation.
It's a very specific, deeply biological type of agony, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
You start calculating distances. You look down the street and think, okay, can I physically make it to that taxi rank, or do I need to just sit on this incredibly questionable public bench right now, regardless of what I'm wearing?
Right. Your brain just entirely shifts gears.
Yeah, it shifts its priority from whatever you are actually doing to pure, unadulterated pain management.
You literally start mapping out the shortest possible route to your front door, based entirely on pain avoidance. And that's exactly what we are looking at in today's deep dive. We've got this fascinating source material from a woman who just decided to stop negotiating with that pain.
Which is such a great story.
It really is. We are exploring the story of Janan Leo, the founder of Cocorose London. Back in 2007, she tried to solve this exact everyday footwear dilemma.
And in the process, she ended up inventing a completely new category of product, right?
Yeah, the world's first foldable shoe. But beyond just, inventing a clever object, her journey fundamentally redefined the entire philosophy of what comfort actually means in product design.
Which I think is a masterclass in how we define a problem in the first place. I mean, most product design falls into this trap of over-engineering a solution just to hit a specific metric on a spec sheet.
Get the numbers.
Exactly. But Leo's story is a case study in realizing that the ultimate goal of any product isn't the mechanical function itself. It's about how that function actually enhances the human experience.
But to really understand why she had to invent this, we should probably look at the landscape of women's shoes back in 2007. I was reading through the material and thinking about the classic compromise we all just sort of accepted as law of physics back then.
The inevitable trade-off.
Right. It's like being forced to choose between two vehicles for the rest of your life. Option A is this beautiful vintage sports car. It looks amazing. It gives you incredible posture. It makes you feel instantly confident.
But it's totally impractical.
Exactly. It has a tiny gas tank and is absolutely guaranteed to break down after 10 miles and leave you stranded on the side of the road.
Okay, so that's the high heel. What's option B?
Option B is a tractor.
The tractor. Okay.
Yeah. It is incredibly reliable. Will definitely get you through the mud. Your feet won't hurt at all. But it is undeniably boring. And you definitely do not want to be seen arriving at a high-end restaurant in it.
Right, you're hiding it around the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why was everyone just okay with the idea that you couldn't have both?
Well, for decades, the footwear industry operated on that exact binary trade-off. I mean, it was deeply ingrained in both the manufacturing process and just general consumer expectations.
We just accepted it.
We did. Heels were engineered for aesthetics, right? Shifting the wearer's center of gravity, altering the silhouette, which naturally placed intense pressure on the metatarsals.
Those are the bones in the ball of the foot, right?
Exactly. And on the flip side, flats were engineered for utility. So if you wanted the psychological armor of style, you just accepted the biological reality of pain. If you wanted to survive a mile-long commute through a city, you wore flats.
Though, to be fair, the flats available back then weren't exactly a thrilling alternative.
No, not at all. Leo explicitly notes in the sources that the existing comfortable shoes on the market looked, and I'm quoting here, sensible, practical, and safe.
The dreaded sensible shoe.
Right. They were essentially the shoes you wore when you were willing to just give up on style for the day. So they solved the physical pain problem by distributing the body's weight more evenly, but they created a new psychological friction.
Because you just didn't feel like yourself.
Exactly. You experienced a loss of personal style and identity. You were comfortable, sure, but you didn't feel like the version of yourself you actually wanted to project into the world.
And the interesting thing is she didn't actually hate high heels. In fact, she loved them. She loved how they completed an outfit, how they gave her that extra height, that little armor of confidence when she walked into a room.
Her problem wasn't with the beginning of the day.
No. Her problem was entirely with the end of the day, when the mechanics of the heel had just finally exhausted the foot's natural padding.
So her motivation was never this anti-heel crusade. Her mission was driven by the belief that beautiful flats shouldn't have to feel like a stylistic surrender. Comfort, style, and confidence absolutely deserve to coexist. But when she decided to actually build this, a shoe that you could keep with you in a handbag and change into when the heels just became too much, she faced a massive structural hurdle. Because in 2007, the concept of a foldable shoe did not exist.
It was a completely blank canvas.
Literally nothing to go on. There was no established category, no competitors to study, no existing manufacturing formula to reverse engineer. She had to invent the mechanics from the ground up, and she knew from the start that simply making a shoe flat wasn't enough. It had to be soft, it had to be flexible, it needed cushioning, and it had to move in tandem with the foot's natural biomechanics rather than resisting them.
Which sounds incredibly difficult when the ultimate mechanical challenge is actually a paradox. Like, how do you preserve all those luxurious, structurally supportive qualities while forcing the shoe to do something it structurally opposes? How do you make it fold in half?
Right, it's asking a lot of a piece of footwear.
I can see a massive engineering trap here, though. If you are inventing something that folds from scratch, and your primary goal is making it fit into a handbag, wouldn't you just inevitably get obsessed with the physical mechanics of miniaturization?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the entire focus in the design lab just becomes, okay, how tiny can we possibly make this thing?
That is the exact trap of optimization that almost every inventor faces, and Leo freely admits she fell right into it. She became completely hyper-focused on that exact question. How small could they become?
Because logically, if the mandate is a backup shoe you carry with you, smaller equals better, right? Less volume in the bag means a more successful product.
On a specification sheet, yes, that makes perfect sense. It feels like the ultimate spatial design challenge. She envisioned women slipping these shoes into tiny evening handbags and elegant clutches without sacrificing any space for their keys or their phone.
A noble goal.
Definitely. But to achieve that ultimate miniaturization, she had to aggressively strip away materials. In a traditional shoe, you have a rigid shank for arch support, a thick midsole for shock absorption, and a durable outsole for traction.
That all take up space?
Exactly. So if she wanted the smallest possible folded footprint, those layers just had to go. She reduced the thickness of the outsole to a bare minimum. She completely ditched any form of a heel. She basically eliminated anything that wasn't strictly essential for the shoe to function as a basic covering for the foot.
She engineered the absolute life out of it.
She really did. And from a purely mathematical perspective, she notes it was a triumph. The shoes folded up incredibly small, but then came the prototypes. She has this brilliant observation in her writing where she says that prototypes are wonderfully honest.
Oh, I love that phrase. Because a piece of paper doesn't have nerve endings,
Right.
A 3D model on a computer screen doesn't have to actually walk down a concrete pavement in the rain.
Yeah.
So what actually happened when she put these marvels of spatial engineering onto a real human foot?
The harsh reality of physics set in. Wearing these ultra-minimalist, incredibly small folding prototypes in everyday life revealed a fatal flaw.
Let me guess, they hurt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, they slipped effortlessly into the tiniest clutches. But the smallest possible shoe was objectively not the best possible shoe. Walking in them demonstrated that by stripping away all the structural material, she had completely stripped away the actual comfort.
Which makes perfect sense when you consider the kinetic energy of walking. Every time your heel strikes the ground, you are sending shockwave right up your leg. If you've removed the midsole and the heel, you have literally nothing absorbing that shock.
Exactly.
So she creates this mathematical marvel that fits in a clutch, but it's physically terrible to actually live in. So if how small can it fold was the wrong metric to optimize for, what was the right one?
And this is the exact pivot point where the entire philosophy of her company shifted. She stopped asking a mechanical question and started asking a human one. She asked, how should these shoes make a woman feel?
Wow, that shifts the entire paradigm. It takes it from a spatial math problem to a behavioral problem.
Completely. She realized she wasn't designing an object to just sit on a shelf or to be admired on a drafting table for its compact dimensions. She was designing an experience.
Right.
Women were never going to judge the success of the shoe by how little room it took up in their handbag. They were going to measure its success by how their body felt halfway through a miserable, rainy commute, or while standing through a 2-hour networking event, or when they made the spontaneous decision to walk home rather than wait for the next train.
It's remarkably similar to brilliant IT support.
Oh, really? How so?
Think about the tech in your office. When the IT department and the network infrastructure are functioning perfectly, they completely disappear. You don't even know they're there.
Oh, that's so true. Right.
You aren't sitting at your desk marveling at the server architecture or the bandwidth optimization. You are just doing your job. You're focusing on living your life. The absolute best technology and the best design gets entirely out of your way.
Well, that is a perfect analogy. Comfort, in the context Leo discovered, is not merely a physical sensation of softness beneath the foot. It alters how a person interacts with their environment.
It changes everything.
Think about your own body language when your shoes actually support you. You naturally stand taller. Your stride lengthens. You are willing to walk further without that internal hesitation.
You actually stay at the party. You don't have to manufacture an excuse to leave an hour early just because your toes are screaming.
Exactly. You accept that spontaneous dinner invitation after work instead of rushing home to elevate your feet. You stop dedicating precious mental bandwidth to managing your discomfort, and you allocate that energy to the moments that actually matter.
The conversations you're having, the places you're exploring.
The people you were spending time with, yeah. In answering that question of how the shoe should make a woman feel, Leo realized her mandate wasn't just physical relief. She was designing for empowerment, for confidence, for freedom and peace of mind.
That is a beautiful, really expansive philosophy. And I have to ask, I'm stuck on the physics of it. How does that philosophical breakthrough actually translate back into the physical construction of the shoe?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because she is still sitting there with this ultra-thin prototype that feels like walking on cardboard. How do you add comfort back in without completely destroying the foldability?
It required a subtle but profound shift in how she defined the category she was inventing. She stopped trying to manufacture a foldable shoe, a phrase that basically implies the folding is the primary defining feature. Instead, she shifted her goal to making an everyday shoe that folds.
Putting the priority back on the everyday shoe part.
Exactly.
The folding is secondary. It's a bonus feature, not the core identity.
Armed with that new priority, she just reversed her previous engineering decisions. She started adding back the structural elements she had stripped away in the name of miniaturization.
Okay, what did she add back?
She brought back thicker, premium, soft leathers. She engineered deep cushioning into the footbed. She introduced pillowed padding at the heel to grip and support the Achilles. And crucially, she redesigned the outsole and introduced a subtle heel to combat the daily impact on the feet and legs.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
If she is adding a heel and a thicker cushioned outsole back into the shoe, how on earth is it still folding in half?
It sounds impossible, right?
Yeah. A solid piece of thick rubber and a heel block doesn't just fold gracefully.
And that's where the mechanical ingenuity finally aligned with the human experience. Because you're right, you can't just bend a traditional thick sole. It will snap, or it will create this massive, uncomfortable crease right under the arch of your foot.
Exactly, you'd feel it with every step.
So the solution involves strategic segmentation. Think about the natural anatomy of the human foot. It hinges at the metatarsophalangeal joints, right where the toes meet the ball of the foot.
Okay, the natural bend.
Right. By engineering an outsole that features specific flex grooves or uses dual density materials that yield exactly at that natural hinge point, you can maintain a thicker, shock-absorbing material under the heel on the forefoot, but still allow the entire structure to articulate and fold in on itself.
Oh, that's incredibly clever.
And the leather upper also has to be treated and patterned in a way that allows it to collapse without permanent structural damage.
So she's essentially mimicking the biomechanical hinge of the foot itself.
Yeah.
But this brings up a major debate in modern footwear. You mentioned she added a heel back in.
Yes.
I feel like everywhere you look today, we are constantly told that completely flat, minimalist, quote-unquote, barefoot-style shoes are the ultimate standard for healthy feet. The argument is that the flatter the shoe, the better your alignment.
This wades right into one of the most polarized debates in biomechanics and footwear, and Leo actually addresses it directly in her philosophy.
She does.
Yeah. On one side of the spectrum, you have traditional high heels, which we know fundamentally alter posture, shorten the calf muscles, and place completely unnatural demands on the skeletal system.
Right, we covered that.
But on the complete opposite end, you have this massive modern movement toward minimalist barefoot shoes. This movement is driven by the evolutionary belief that removing all height and cushioning allows the foot to function exactly as nature intended.
Which makes sense on the surface. Humans evolved running barefoot across the savannah for hundreds of thousands of years. We didn't evolve with arch support, so why wouldn't a completely flat, zero-cushion shoe be the ultimate answer for our anatomy?
While Leo acknowledges that the barefoot trend has injected vital new thinking into the industry, it has forced designers to think deeply about toe splay, giving the toes enough lateral space to balance the body, and about allowing the foot's intricate network of tendons and muscles to engage naturally.
Right, it challenged decades of bad assumptions.
Exactly. However, she argues that extreme minimalism suffers from a fatal flaw. It completely ignores the reality of modern human environments.
Because we aren't running on the savannah anymore.
No, we are not. Our ancestors did not walk on asphalt. They didn't spend 10 hours a day rushing through concrete railway stations or standing on the rigid, unforgiving floors of office buildings, airports, and modern shopping centers.
That's a really good point.
The natural world it compresses under our weight. Concrete does not.
Let's think about the physics of that. It's the difference between hitting a steel hammer against a rubber mat versus hitting it against an anvil.
Oh, exactly.
When you strike a rubber mat, the mat absorbs the kinetic energy. When you strike an anvil, the concrete doesn't absorb anything, so 100% of that shock wave bounces right back up the handle into your arm.
That is the perfect analogy. Over the course of a normal day in a modern city, a person's foot absorbs thousands of those anvil strikes. Every step on a man-made surface generates a ground reaction force.
And without a buffer.
Right. If you are wearing an ultra-minimalist shoe with no cushioning on concrete, those small forces accumulate rapidly. By the evening, you aren't just experiencing tired muscles. Your body is absorbing the cumulative micro-trauma of those impacts traveling straight up the kinetic chain.
From your heels into your ankles, up your shins, and directly into your knees and hips.
Precisely. Which explains why people who switch abruptly to barefoot shoes for city walking often end up with plantar fasciitis or joint pain.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is why, in Leo's view, thoughtful cushioning is not the enemy of natural movement. It is a biological necessity. It acts as a protective buffer against the modern concrete environments we have built for ourselves.
So it's about designing for the life you actually lead, not a theoretical evolutionary existence.
Yes, exactly.
If you are commuting through a concrete subway station, you need armor calibrated for that specific environment, not a shoe optimized for wandering through a grassy field.
Movement and protection do not have to be mutually exclusive. The best product design strikes a thoughtful balance between the two. It allows the foot to flex and move naturally, yes, but it still offers the density and the impact absorption required to make modern life physically sustainable.
Which is the sweet spot she had to find.
Right. That is why she engineered the padding, the redesigned articulating outsole, and the subtle heel back into her design. The shoes still folded up neatly into a travel pouch, but they now offered actual biomechanical reassurance underfoot.
Because at the end of the day, as she pointed out, the person wearing the shoe isn't analyzing it in a lab. They are describing their comfort by talking about the millimeters of, the height difference between the heel and the toe, or the specific chemical hardness of the foam in the midsole.
No, women describe comfort simply as the ability to forget about their feet entirely.
That's it. That's the ultimate goal.
That is the highest possible compliment a physical product can receive. The shoe slowly disappears from your conscious thought, leaving you entirely free to just exist in the present moment.
It all comes back to that invisible IT support. If it is doing its job flawlessly, it ceases to exist in your mind.
Perfect circle back to that.
So, looking at Janan Leo's journey from 2007 to today, she started with a painfully universal problem: the biological agony of heels at the end of a demanding day. She tried to mathematically engineer her way out of it by optimizing for the smallest possible foldable object.
She fell into the trap.
She did, prioritizing technical specifications over human anatomy. And then she had a massive philosophical breakthrough that changed the entire trajectory of her product.
And the philosophy that guides Cocorose London today is the direct, refined result of that specific journey. It is the core belief that objects must be designed around the complex realities of the lives we lead, not the other way around.
It's so fundamental, but so easily forgotten.
Right. Comfort is not a technical specification you can measure with a ruler. It is a holistic human experience. It is the quiet, reliable assurance that your footwear is actively supporting your skeleton, rather than constantly demanding your attention and taxing your pain tolerance. When a product achieves that level of seamless integration, it doesn't just relieve physical pain, it actively empowers the person using it to live more fully.
It literally gives you your day back. And that leaves us with a genuinely fascinating thought for you to take away from this deep dive. We've talked about how true comfort in a product means it becomes completely invisible, allowing you to focus your energy on the moments that actually matter.
Right.
So if you look around at your own life right now, what other everyday tools, gadgets, or objects are currently demanding your attention? What things are quietly dictating your choices, limiting your movement, or draining your mental bandwidth, simply because they aren't truly designed around your human experience?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
It really is. If we collectively stopped accepting the compromise of the beautiful sports car that inevitably breaks down, or the reliable but completely boring tractor, what else could we achieve? It is definitely something to critically examine the next time you find yourself negotiating with a product that is supposed to be helping you.